All right, thanks for choosing to shine with us this Monday, April 30th. Today we get an in-depth discussion in the Reset Jamaica section. This morning we're looking at the issues surrounding insurance and pension penetration in Jamaica as we welcome Peter Levy, the president of the Insurance Association of Jamaica, and Antonio Spence, Senior Assistant General Manager of Individual Life and Retention at NCB Insurance Company. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome.
Morning.
Good morning. Morning to you.
All right, I'm going to start off with a basic question. I think a lot of viewers, a lot of consumers have an understanding as to what insurance is. But in terms of the array of products, so start with you, Peter. What exactly are we talking about when we speak about the different insurance options?
Primarily, we're talking about most people's exposure to insurance will be in the form of motor insurance, motor vehicle insurance, which can protect both your asset, your car, as well as any potential liability you have to other people who might be injured or have their property damaged by your car while it's on the road. Then, of course, we have household insurance, which protects your house and your contents against things like fire, earthquake, hurricane, flood, and so on. And then we move into the range of kind of business insurances, where you have insurance against burglary, insurance against liability to employees for injuries, and just a range of options. But I think the homeowners and the motor vehicle would be the ones on the general insurance side that are the ones that are most relevant to people.
On the life side, you have traditional life insurance, so where it is that the insured person is covered, and in the event of loss of their life or dismemberment or disability, a payout is typically triggered to either the beneficiary in the case of a life policy, or a policy that has a living-based benefit, a payment to the actual insured based on the impairment that in fact has happened. The space is dynamic too, in that it doesn't just cover life. So there are things that covers, for example, critical illnesses. There group the health plans, for example, that persons typically depend on in the event that they become ill, or baby or daddy or mommy becomes ill. You know, that is the conduit to which they're able to access health care at what would end up being an inexpensive rate. And of course, within this space too, we have things like pensions. So the insurance companies themselves provide pension-based solutions to persons who need to or should use it as a conduit to be able to ensure that by the time they get to retirement, there is sufficient to support that life after work. So the space is a pretty big and dynamic space.
All right. Now, we saw last week in the news on CVM here a concern, Sir Levy, that was raised that a lot of Jamaicans are uninsured, and we're trying to get to the root cause of that. Is it a lack of awareness? Is it a lack of confidence? Is it a lack of trust on the side of consumers toward these various insurance products that you've both mentioned?
But before you answer, is it that more persons are not having their motor vehicles insured? Or we're looking at, in terms of their life insurance, health insurance? Which one is it?
We're concerned across the whole landscape of insurance products. I think, to respond to you, Raymond, the lack of trust, lack of awareness.
Lack of money?
Yeah.
Disposable income?
Yeah. It's a whole range of causes. There is no one, and there isn't even, I don't think, a kind of main cause. There's just, so we have to look at it and say, okay, what are all the things we need to do to keep moving the needle on that and to get it up? Because where we are, one of the typical measure of kind of insurance penetration is the amount of the premium as related to GDP.
Right.
And Jamaica is half the level of the Bahamas and Barbados, a quarter the level of Cayman. So it's low even by standards of the region. And it's the potential consequences of that are significant for the economy nationally and for the individual who is affected.
What are when you say consequence, what do you mean? It's a consequence for the economy?
the consequence plays out when something happens, like you have a hurricane, and we're heading into hurricane season now, and we've seen what happens when you have a hurricane.
Devastation.
Strong enough, move through a small island state.
Yeah.
And do we have as a country, do we have the national resources to rebuild? Having the funding from insurance coverage at a higher level would go a long way to helping us to get back the economy and get back people's lives on track.
Right.
So that's how it impacts on a national basis. On an individual basis, obviously, if you are, as simple as a car accident, if you rely on that car for your livelihood, and the car is out for 6 weeks, 2 months, what happens? Are you able to get the kids to school? Although it can be very disruptive to the individual.
And disruptive in a bad sense.
Yeah.
You've mentioned an example that all Jamaicans can relate to, especially those who experienced 88 Hurricane Gilbert, where there was a significant impact on the housing stock. Right. But it's not only in a hurricane, because a few years ago on Marcus Garvey Drive, the coffee industry, the coffee board facility, was inundated by water from a drain. And we saw in the news that while they had insurance, the insurance coverage they thought they had was not sufficient. Yes. So there are those concerns as well. Yes. And the same I would figure in terms of health and life and disability benefits.
You're completely correct. As a matter of fact, to use a parallel on the life side, and to identify a particular emerging trend, emerging space in Jamaica and perhaps as well the rest of the Caribbean. This issue regarding cover, talking about implications of not having cover, for example, and looking at it within the family context now. So imagine a case where you have, a normal family, maybe a mother or father or both in a home, and you have somebody becoming critically ill, for example. Imagine a case where that person has no health insurance coverage, for example, or they don't have an illness plan that covers something that ends up being pretty expensive. Yeah. Imagine the steps that they would have to take to be able to ensure that they could handle what is going to turn out to be the battle of their lives. Yeah. Now, that battle is made so much easier when it is that there is cover, because if there isn't, I've seen a case where a man sold the roof over his head to be able to ensure that he was able to handle the cost of taking care of cancer that came upon him suddenly. So, it is so important to make sure that everyday Jamaicans are exposed to this, and of course that's the reason for putting forward our particular position at this point. It is absolutely critical. So whether it is motor insurance to cover your home, whether it is insurance to cover your life, or that of your families, health-wise, it is absolutely critical to make sure these things are in place.
What can the industry do? I mean, some of what we would consider the obvious outcomes of greater levels of penetration in terms of insurance coverage of all types is more business to the insurance companies themselves. What can they do to increase that penetration?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot that we can do. I mean, we have been working along with the Financial Services Commission, which is our regulator, on a number of things that hopefully will start to move the needle on these things. One of them is they're creating a microinsurance framework, which is essentially small, simple, relatively inexpensive forms of insurance that people can access easily, right. And that remove a lot of the bureaucratic hurdles to accessing insurance. We're working with them as part of a financial literacy campaign that they're undergoing, of public education. So we're part of that. But internally, I think we can look at our own products and our own processes, which can be a bit burdensome. Some of that is forced on us by regulation. But that's, again, something we're working with the FSC to try and at least minimize the impact. Because it's just, as I say, it's one of the many things that we have to address. I think we have to look at the products and services that we have and see how well they match people's needs.
Yeah.
And then the pricing, one of the things that people can do, because typically for general insurance anyway, it's been kind of a one-time payment once a year. And I think people should look around for options where they can do a monthly payment, for instance. It makes it so much easier. The whole idea about insurance is take a small amount of pain on a regular basis to protect against a massive amount of pain. Who knows when it's coming?
Yeah.
And moving even from the annual premium to a monthly premium just kind of reduces the amount of pain
and
that much more and spreads it around.
Could there be well, firstly, thought just came to my mind. Let me go to that one first. Does the sector allow for period or seasonal insurance where people might rush in to be insured on the 31st of May and are not so much interested on the 1st of December? Of course, I'm speaking about the hurricane season, the established hurricane season.
I mean, you could do that, but, the insurance company is not likely to just simply charge a proportional amount.
Right.
Because they know that that's 100% of the hurricane season.
Right.
So the unit cost might be a little bit higher than if you're buying it for the whole year.
Yeah.
And remember, this is where the insurance/financial literacy element does come into, which is, of course, why it is that we're partnered all to try to bring this message forward. The truth is that persons sometimes become focused on the possibility of loss at the high-risk period. Right. So the trigger typically is in the event of general insurance when a hurricane might come in the Caribbean, for example. Maybe if you're in India, it might be the monsoon season. Right. And then once you're out of that season, sort of, the thing drops. Yes? Yeah. Now, the truth is that it isn't just a hurricane that could threaten your property. Mm-hmm. Similarly for life, a lot of persons we find tend to seek insurance when it is that they've seen a tragedy or they've seen an illness event or something similar within their circumstance or immediate circumstance. But of course, we want to make sure that we have persons do proper planning and sit and go through it, because sometimes when these sort of events occur, they occur completely out of the blue, and when it's completely unexpected, and maybe at a point where, when it in fact does happen, prevents them from in fact being able to access coverage. But wanting to switch gears, just well, not necessarily switch gears, but just to add the pension piece of the discussion as well. We have a fairly low level of penetration on that side too.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we're looking at less than 10% of the total population of Jamaica working population being on a structured pension arrangement.
So that needs to improve significantly.
That has to improve significantly if it is that we're going to make sure that when we get to 55 and 60 and 65, we in fact are able to enjoy the same quality of life or close to as that which we enjoyed while we're working.
All right. So I just want to say thank you to Peter Levy and Antonio Spence on giving us some insightful information as it relates to insurance, pension, insurance of a cadre of types, right? Yeah. As well as our pension plans. We go to a break and we'll be right back with more CVM at Sunrise.